All right. Hi, guys. This is Alex Stepien for Trademarkia and Nick O'Brien with his
How you doing,
company.
Alex?
Hey, thanks, man. Thanks for coming on the show. And we're here to talk about your business, how it's being run, what were the challenges setting it up, and about, of course, intellectual property rights, trademarks, since Templi.com, that's the name of your company, is a company that supplies branded apparel, paraphernalia. How would you describe it in your own words?
Print, packaging, and merch. So merch is like the encompassing term for like apparel, soft goods, things like that with your designs.
Great. So, like, what's the range? Are we looking from, Super Bowl, signets, t-shirts, mugs?
I would think about going to your favorite like cafe or store, retail store, and they've got their own designs on some hats, t-shirts, a tote bag. So that would be kind of merch, like maybe higher end merch that they're selling in store. And then you've got what you could call merch or like promotional items. And these are things that people are giving away. So maybe those are like lower quality, lower cost goods. Um, so yeah, so you have like giveaways, which you could call swag, and merch, kind of one and the same, but I associate merch with more of things you're selling. I think about um, a band that you went to see, and you're at the concert and you're buying the merch.
All right. All
Um,
right. Cool. All right. So, again, could you please be more specific? What are the top sellers? What are your top selling products?
for us, it's matchbooks, both for like weddings and events, and for bars, restaurants, hotels, coasters. Um, we do a lot of coffee cups and plastic cups for like iced coffee or cold drinks. So there's a lot of food service, are very popular items for us. And on the merch side, things like hats, t-shirts, and tote bags are extremely popular. We do, I would say, postcards, and yeah, we're doing a lot more like weddings and in like events. People are hosting events. They're wanting some branded goods for the event. So those have become very popular, matches as well, for that category.
Cool. Tote bags. This is like a bag, like the bag you take to a gym, or like the kind of semi backpack thing the youngsters are using now.
Yeah, I would think like a canvas or cotton tote bag that you're wear that you maybe you're bringing to the store, or you're bringing, um, yeah, just in your everyday use. Maybe you're going to the gym, you're just going to throw some stuff in your tote. Um, and they're just fun. They're fun like merch things to design. So they're quite popular.
All right. So tell us about the story of your business. How did you come to start it? What were the pitfalls and the challenges, and some maybe success stories?
Yeah, I was working for another like print merch business. Um, I actually went to go visit a bag manufacturer out in New Jersey in the US. And he had this really nice car, this Audi R8. Was in love with that car, and I was like, wow. The owner was like in his 40s, and I was like, I want to do whatever you're doing, and seemed so cool, like running manufacturing. And I learned that he did domestic manufacturing in the US. He also did overseas manufacturing for the larger orders. And at that time, I'd been doing a lot of like small print orders, things like that. And we had more of we had a different type of customer, which is like government agency, business to business. I wasn't extremely passionate about that customer base, I guess, or the items we were doing. And so I got the idea to start my own business and focus on being kind of a middleman between overseas manufacturers, specifically in China, and US distributors. So distributors are people that they go and get the orders, and then they send them to manufacturers. And so that was the role I played between companies in the business that were selling merch packaging and factories overseas, and that was growing at that time. But it's like you wanted to do business over there for large orders, but you also were very scared about sending your money and what was going to happen. So I had really been into traveling, backpacking myself through Europe and South America and stuff. And so that just really clicked for me. Like I wanted to travel, I wanted to go to the factories and do that work. So I did that for about 2 years, lived in China for 2 years.
Amazing.
And then found maybe I wanted to do something more scalable, but within the same industry. I just felt like dealing with individual orders wasn't going to be scalable, at least for me. And so then I came back to New York City area, and I started working with more hotels, restaurants, design agencies, and I was just enthralled with that whole industry, that whole customer base. It was creative. You were part of the best, the new restaurant openings, the new hotel openings. They were being talked about, and so I just kind of found my passion serving that market.
That's amazing.
And yeah, so I created Templi as a way to reduce the time spent going from brand deck to physical production and product. So what I found was working with a lot of design agencies, Alex, is it would start off with a brand deck, and it's not just a logo and a color palette, but it's also, maybe a half a dozen physical goods with your branding. That was right in line with all of my experience. And I found designers and the customers, and these are usually new business owners or businesses, starting a new brand. They didn't know where to get all of these things made. They had this, this beautiful brand, this logo mark. And so I was becoming the production source for all of those goods. And Templi was born out of a way to make that process far more efficient by bringing these kind of complicated products online. And so that's where we launched in 2020 in the eye of the storm during COVID, and I've been running the business ever since.
Fantastic. Well, congratulations. So tell me, with regard to trademarks, how does a strong trademark fit into your business? What are the benefits of companies investing in apparel, in merch, like you're producing, like you're selling, and how does it fit into business models? Are these like, freebies at parties or promotional events? How does that work?
I would say for brands, my experience with trademarks and brands, I would say it's different at different stages of growth. In meaning the importance of having, trademark and brand is one thing, and trademarks is another thing. So the question is it important for me to get a trademark for my brand? And I would say yes, it's very important to get a trademark, but for different reasons at different stages. For example, in the early stages, you're just getting started. Like when Templi got started, we went through the very arduous process of getting our trademark, just dealing with the government and their website. So at that stage, it's about protection of your company. I saw a document. Well, you don't need to see a documentary to know that patent trolls are there. And if they see your brand and they see you don't have a trademark, there are people out there with lawyer backgrounds that will create the trademark and sue you out of existence. And so you basically need to trademark just to protect your very survival of the company. At later stages or different products, it's about protecting your IP and not letting another company just create the same brand, create an inferior product, flood the market, and reduce the quality of your brand. And so at that stage, it's really not a concern until you have like a great product and a wide-reaching market, right? If you're in the middle stages, you're a retail brand. No one knows about you. You know, you're not so much at that danger, that second level danger. You're still at the first level of danger. Um, and so, yeah, it's important at different stages for different reasons.
All right. So do your products have like a small tag, like a Templi tag, and then the brand name of the company that they're produced for, or do
You
you
would
have?
never know that Templi was involved. Our customers, when they buy things from us, uh, you would not know that they got them from Templi. We don't put our mark on them unless it's required by law for some very specific products. It's all considered white label. So we're just a production manufacturer source, and we're just bringing your dreams and designs to life.
All right. So have you personally encountered any cases of copyright infringement, bootlegging, either in your business or just roaming the streets of New York? Because that's where I assume
In
this
my
can happen.
industry, it's not so common in print and packaging within the what we do. Think people need postcards, people need a shirt, they need coffee cups. There's not a lot of infringement there, but overseas there is. So overseas is where you're going to do like. So I would say on our side, trademark infringement would be more you're using the same name as us, and we've got that name, and you're trying to use the name, and you're working through those issues. Overseas, where it's more logo related, it's your luxury brand, and you have this Birkin bag, and you found a factory to make Birkin bags, and you're trying to sell them. So that's like a different stage of infringement that you would come across in my industry, in the custom soft goods manufacturing space. But for us, if someone's wanting to do merch or coffee cups, it's not a logo thing. It's more of a name thing of like you're using the same name. We had a recent customer getting sued by Blank Street Coffee because our customer had like a similar name, and it just wasn't worth fighting it out in court, and it got really messy. But so that's a situation of you have a brand, a company comes along, creates a very similar sounding brand, and then they start attacking you with their attorneys and lawsuits. And so yeah, in that sense, I think that's probably the only experience I've seen on the brand side. Bootleg merchandise in New York City, I think, is more of a tourist event than an actual market for New Yorkers. Like, people I know, friends, we're not going to buy bootleg merch in these areas that's hot with tourists, like Chinatown, um, Times Square, these areas. So what you'll see there actually was quite quieted down, and I could say in New York City, the bootlegging is like a pre-COVID, post-COVID world, where pre-COVID, you would go to Chinatown and you would go into little stores, little shops, and they'd have a little card, and you'd pick from a card, and then someone would come out, from behind the the back and bring you your goods. Um, Post-COVID, I don't know, there's like a relaxing of the rules or the enforcement, and you would see just rows and rows of blankets out in other areas like Times Square, Midtown, where you get a lot of tourists. And there were mostly immigrants coming in, and that was how they were trying to make money, and they would just sell bootleg Chanel, Birkins, all this stuff. And quite surprising how much it proliferated throughout the streets. But I think they're cracking down on that now, actually.
Maybe it's like the first wave of hybrid warfare, or like or nth wave.
Yeah. But again, it's more of a tourist thing. I think, if anything, I think people just like getting a deal, and they see it in the movies, the shows, and they're like, I just want to go and get a deal down in Chinatown.
All right. Could you regale us with some examples of a brand reinforcement strategy using your products? What would you recommend? What's the occasion? When would be the right time to order? What type of product for what company? Let's try and maybe present some use case scenarios.
Right now, brand is becoming much more of a requirement for success, for separating yourself. And what used to be like a hat with a logo for, you know, your lawn care company, it's kind of like this promotional feeling of like branded goods. A new space has really developed where brands want to connect with younger audiences. They want to be cool, for lack of a better term. Like, the cool factor of a brand is what separates you from others these days. Like, there's so much noise, there's so much out there content that brands really want to separate themselves as and come off as more of like a streetwear cool kid brand, if you will. And they're using merch and kind of like this vintage, I don't know, like this vintage 90s. Like, you're seeing a lot of hat styles, shirt styles that are just like very old, like kind of like dad wear type of swag. And so you're seeing like this resurgence of these like old school vintage hats that are embroidered, um, screen printed shirts. And so for brands that want to appeal to younger audiences, or they are young themselves and they just want to make a statement, they're using a lot of merch to show themselves off and create that individualistic empowerment. On the personal side, we also do, and we also do that with companies, like more established companies, food and beverage brands, where, listen, they go through supplies, they go through coffee cups, coasters, and they just want them branded because they've invested in their brand. And to have it in a PDF is not helping anybody. They need to get that brand out in public, out in real life, and in front of people. You don't want to do it too much. You want to find this balance of not over branding yourself, but having something. And it depends on what kind of business you are. Like, a dive bar in New York City may not want any branding at all. Whereas like other restaurants and different kind of niches, they may want a few different touch points to connect with their clientele. Great example for us, and what we really specialize in is, like, you go to a restaurant in New York, you're going to find a pen, maybe a check card, and a coaster, something like that, or a set of matchbooks at the check-in. Those are all items that Templi really specializes in, and I don't want to say has cornered the market, but we're very popular in those types of items. So when you go to like a restaurant and you have a great experience, you want to take a little memento with you, a little matchbook, a pen maybe. Those are all things that people come to Templi for. And finally, there's a lot of like personal branding going on right now, Alex. So, for example, we have these matchbooks that have a 200-piece minimum, and a lot of people are starting to order them for the homes. Like, when they have dinner parties, friends over, people just freak out when they realize you have your own kind of branded matches. And so I think people are developing their own brand. And the way to do that is to bring it into a physical nature. And so therein lies printing in the industry that we're in.
Nice. What would be the weirdest merch, weirdest apparel that you've produced for a client?
Probably condoms for the Standard Hotel. Standard Hotel is like a very chic boutique line of hotels in New York, Miami, LA. And so we do their condoms. We don't make them ourselves. We work with a manufacturer that's all they do. And so, but those are wildly popular in their rooms as part of the mini bar collection.
Interesting. So, but what I find interesting is that you were referencing blank coffee shops, right? As an actual coffee shops, not like Amsterdam coffee shops,
Blank
right?
Street Coffee is an
Blank Street, yeah.
actual chain of coffees. Yeah, it's like this VC backed coffee chain that has exploded. Started here in New York with a coffee cart.
It's kind of so strange. Like, as we're talking about strong brands and like a standard hotel, Blank Street Coffee, and I actually thought you used the term Blank Street to avoid mentioning the actual name of the company, and said standard hotels just for the same reason. And maybe this is just kind of like a shift for that maybe the clients these days find something that's less in your face and more toned down as more attractive branding brand alternative. What do you think about that?
Yeah, I mean, listen, there's only so many names in the world, so only so many domains. So you have to get creative. You have to push the boundaries. You have to come up with creative ideas. So yeah, it makes sense that people would go like the non-brand brand. But make no mistake, brand is extremely important to those two companies and everybody. So it's like, yeah, we're coming up with a creative brand name, but brand is still going to be paramount to how we operate and communicate with our customers.
Naturally, kind of like
It is that's just the way it is today. And everyone's got an Instagram page. Everyone, you got a retail. There's millions of retail stores. Why does someone come into you? So you're trying to fit this aesthetic that unfortunately is kind of evening it out. Like there's like this modern minimalist aesthetic that is pervasive throughout brands. And so it's kind of like that's the benchmark that brands need to hit in a way. And then from there, you're trying to create uniqueness up or down in any direction, like some uniqueness about you, but you still at a baseline have kind of a clean aesthetic. The space is clean, the brand is clean. All those technical design features are still needed.
how
It's
about
kind of
Holly?
like you don't know. It's like you don't know how much work goes into good design. You just kind of it when you see it. I think that's what brands are trying to accomplish.
Yeah, sure thing. Well, some people are aware. I have a Mi Vendeur chair sitting next to me, so I know something about timeless design. Tell me, do you do holograms? I used to live in the United States, and I was always a really big fan. You don't get this in Europe that much. Baseball
Holograms.
cards, yeah, like these kind of stickers with kind of like a 3D motif.
Yeah, it's definitely produced. It's definitely done here in the States. But to be honest, I haven't seen it done. I think it's probably one of those things where it's probably going to come around again because you haven't heard about it at least in the States in like 20 years, kind of like fashion. Like give fashion 25 years and it'll come back. But yeah, it's an interesting idea. I remember seeing it a lot with baseball cards, trading cards as a way of presenting your trademark as well. But we haven't gotten that request much from the customer side.
All right. All right. So, can you mention any spectacularly successful? Pardon. Can you recount any spectacular? My tongue tied. What are some of your most spectacularly successful products? Like you said, the matchbooks, but maybe something more grandiose. Balloons, giant balloons.
Our coffee cups are a fun one. Our coasters, I've mentioned those. I would say successful because you see them all around. Like they're always getting posted. So I guess things that we see our customers posting all the time. makes us feel good. Like, yeah, they value this particular item being customized. So in New York City, coffee cups are a big deal, getting your own branding. And then success stories, I guess, not like on the company side, we're still growing. So I don't want to say we're a success yet or anything like that, but I think the team has been successful in the way we've stayed together. We have very low turnover rate. I think that's like a success I'm very proud of as a company. We seem to treat each other very well, and I think that's the thing I'm like a little most proud of.
Nick, thank you for those interesting insights. And let's just keep let's have at it again. I really enjoyed that packet of information. Tell me, can you tell us something about your company in numbers for our viewers? How many employees? How many units? We don't need exact financial info, but just maybe whatever you can help us with.
Yeah, I'll need to be a little vague. We're at about 10 people. And I would say we're doing multiple millions of dollars in revenue a year.
Amazing, amazing. Congratulations. And how many items per year?
We have a catalog right now of about 200 products, and that is scheduled to double and triple in the coming 6 months. So we've got some exciting new product lines coming on soon. A lot of signage and merch and printed goods, marketing materials. That should expand us to about 500 products, I'd say in the next 6 months, 12 months. And yeah, I don't know how many units we're producing. Pretty tough to say, but it's in the millions of units per year.
Pardon the question. Do you do whoopee cushions as well?
Whoopee cushions?
Whoopee cushions.
You've got a funny taste for these like gag type of items.
This is just stuff that's yeah, I'm reminiscing, as a 6-year-old, 7-year-old. I'm sorry. I'm sure you do a lot of more adult stuff. I didn't want to.
Yeah, no whoopee cushions yet, Alex, but we may need to add one for you.
All right, yeah. I'll if when I'm holding my bachelor party, I'll be sure to order 100.
Yeah, we'll get your twisty straws, we'll get your whoopee cushions, and maybe some fun hats.
How about a wacky inflatable arm flailing tube man?
Yeah,
that one?
That's a good one. I'm always surprised. I love the ones that have configured their wacky waving arm flailing guy to do like special motions. There's a nut and coffee shop in the neighborhood that I think like tied a wristband to its arm, and it waves you in like into the door. So very impressed that you can get them to do certain actions.
See, so I was, my questions were, half serious, half joking, and I finally, nailed one at least that has some relevance. So, yeah. So, could you tell me about how you perceive the importance of having airtight legal documentation doing your multi-million-dollar business?
Yeah, it's something you don't want to put off. You kind of dream of success, and people maybe dream of exits, you dream of raising capital maybe, and if you aren't tightened up in those areas that may feel like a pain in the butt for some people, but when you try and go and have your moment, and if you're not, your ducks haven't been all lined up, you're in for a rude awakening, because those things matter when it matters. And yeah, just can't stress the importance enough of being tightened up there. And to your company's point, the trademark is super important. Like, how are you going to sell a brand and you don't have the trademark, or you go and sell the brand and oops, someone else has your trademark. you've potentially sunk the entire deal at that point. So definitely something you don't want to overlook, and you want to get tightened up as soon as possible.
Sure thing. Have you or your company ever been on the wrong end of a lawsuit?
No, thankfully, but
or the right end for that matter?
yeah, I don't shy away from hearing the horror stories, so it keeps me in check. I remember, yeah, like I was saying, that documentary I saw was just, I think I'll never forget it, where it was basically just horror stories of patent trolls suing people because they didn't have their trademark, because they didn't have like a patent filed, or they have a product that someone had a patent on, and they're like, oh, your product uses this kind of slider bar on your website, that I have a patent for that. So you want to, there's a famous saying in boxing that kind of applies to life, which is protect yourself at all times. It's the first thing a ref says to boxers when they touch gloves. So no matter what, you have to protect yourself at all times. And with business, it's documentation, it's trademarks, it's licenses, it's patents, all those things.
Great.
And if you're not good at those things, I'd recommend hiring someone or finding someone on your team who is and loves that kind of thing, and I'm sure it'll pay dividends down the road.
That is pure gold, and that is great for a closing remark. Nick O'Brien from Templi.com. Oh, your last question. Can you flex any Templi merch or gear at this point? Just a point of interest. Do you have like anything on your table that you could show us? What the actual...
Yeah, let's see.
So what the actual Sam Hill are we talking about here?
And we got a tote bag.
That is a tote bag. All
a
right.
beloved restaurant here in New York City.
Amazing. Yeah. Is that 100% cotton?
100% cotton. Not to do too much on the totes. This is another one. This was screen printed in 7 shades of black to get this kind of photorealistic image.
And it's screen printed, and the parakeet is screaming.
Yes. Yeah, so this is a tote bag for Brickell City Center in Miami. That was a fun one.
Cool. Nick, thank you so much. This was a really great interview. I think our viewers and listeners are really going to enjoy listening and have a lot of good information takeaways. So thank you so much for that, and we'll be in touch.
Yeah, thanks for your time, Alex. It was great chatting with you. Take care.
All right. Take care. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Protect your brand with Trademarkia. Register your trademark on trademarkia.com.